with it.
Oh, there you get it?
Yes, there.
Okay. All right. So let's go to screen share. This is the official welcome to the presentation When Anger Heals. For those of you who are with me for the last half an hour, I have been dealing with technological issues for a couple of days. And I'm back on my computer, which is infected. And I just pray that for at least an hour, we will be trouble-free and I can present this. I am counting that I can condense 90 minutes of presentation into 60 minutes and stress what is important to say. So we are here because we want to think about how anger can heal, how to use its energy for the highest good. These were the earlier workshop reminders. Most of all, I want to let you know that we will communicate with you through the chat. My co-host, Doug, will be reading what I need to know through the chat because I'm just concentrating on the slides and distilling the essentials. So I won't be able to see or allow you to speak. So that is the mode of operation. About me, the official biography, in a few words, is that in 1981, I earned my PhD in clinical psychology. I worked at the University of Berkeley Counseling Center, where I began decades of working with clients, which continued after I retired early from UC Berkeley. Since that time, the decades, I have been exploring many ways of healing, personal development, all kinds of opportunities to learn more, not realizing, which you'll hear in my actual story, that I was looking for answers for me, but I was just in this place of exploring and gathering more and more tools and information. This is my story that I want to share with you so that you get to know me in terms of my history in this particular way. Many people who see me, even with all this mess, I am basically a grounded, calm person, and I hope you can hear the warmth in my presence. But let me tell you, it wasn't always like this. You see, in looking back in my history as I did my healing journey, I saw how much of my life was shaped by unspoken anger, not just mine, but my family's too. When I began my life and looked into my mother's eyes, which I recall in a healing event in healing school, I saw that my mother was not there. I learned later, or labeled her later, that she was a stoic and also depressed. So I felt her absence in words I didn't have, in ways I didn't have words for. My little inner child took this to mean I wasn't good enough. 2 years later, my twin sisters were born, and my small place on the stage of my family disappeared. Consequently, I grew up feeling lost and confused. In my family, we didn't do anger. My parents never fought. I remember my grandmother saying to my mother, "She's a habutembo." You see that picture on the screen? That's me. I'm a habutembo, a pouter in Japanese. That was her description of me. So I learned to hide my anger too. But anger showed up sometimes, like when my quiet father exploded 3 times. Once was, I remember working on the coffee table in the dining room on a wool rug. And he told me, "Be careful because that ink is indelible." And would you know it? I spilled the ink. He picked up that ink bottle and threw it across the room, way across the room. I froze. I didn't understand how anger could be so quiet one moment and so frightening the next. And just as a side note, as I have looked at my history more and more, this freezing that I do, I didn't realize how much of it I did in my life. So, with this background, I buried my anger. I chose to be good, you know, good daughter, good student, good professional. So on the outside, I looked successful, calm, pleasant, but on the inside, my heart was broken. I carried deep betrayal from relationships, getting into relationships because of my wound, seeking love, attention. No one could see this broken heart that led me, and I didn't even know it. So after my early retirement from Berkeley, I spent decades getting a lot of training. And I didn't know it, but I was searching for relief from an ache I could not name. 10 years ago, I was writing a chapter in a book. A phrase came to me: listen to the cries of your heart. It didn't come from my intellect, my thinking mind. It came from intuition, from spirit. In those seconds, something cracked open in me. That message led me deeper into my own inner child work. I didn't even know that that was what I was doing. But eventually, I created a chapter that became a book. The journey was showing me that anger was not here to destroy, but anger protects us. Anger says enough. Anger tells us where our boundaries are, where our heart has been hurt. So since that time, I've worked with the inner child and began to honor anger more and more as an ally. So here I am, 10 years of deep work later, talking to you about when you listen to anger, you can set yourself free. That's why I'm here with you today. I want you to see your anger not as a problem, but as a guide. I want you to feel its power and its use for your highest good. So, back in the chat, say yes in the chat if you have areas in your life where you too felt lost and confused. And Doug will have to let me know if people are responding to that question.
We're
Yeah,
seeing a number of yeses
good.
from Natalia, Christy,
Yeah.
Sam, Mike.
Yeah, you don't need to name names. Just let me know that the yeses are coming in. Thank you.
The numbers are growing.
Right. Say yes in the chat if you are willing to open to your intuition and inner wisdom to what you're hearing today. Good. I'm here getting
Quickly, the yeses are coming up.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, say yes in the chat if you want keys to have guidance, purpose, and direction in your life. Yes, I see the yes coming
And
in.
yes. Yes, we're seeing yeses.
Thank you. Okay, the structure is threefold. This is ambitious because I have so much less time. The first section is going to go through quickly your history with anger and what the result of that is, so that you are now handling anger possibly through reactions and not through responses. The second, will be changing that to encourage you to see anger as a cry from your heart. That is eventually how I framed my inner child journey. The third section, which is where I talk about the keys to your truth, it's big too. So let's hope we can get there in time so I can present all that material. Now, the spirit of this briefly is I will be teaching. I will help you become aware of how you handle anger. I will teach you about looking at anger as a message of no from the heart. I will teach you about how the inner child, where it all started, limits you. And finally, I will talk about how to move to freedom instead. And actually, the most important part is the spirit of the class, where I present self-reflective pieces. I'll give you a minute or so to begin to journal on some questions as a beginning to see what there is in your life to begin to your transformation. Because I take the view, this is not about my speaking and shoving the material into your brain. You have done that in school and in many books and courses, just gathering all that knowledge. But if it stays in your brain and doesn't become part of your living experience, it doesn't create any change for you. And that is why many of you may be here, because you have looked at books, listened to podcasts, um, chose courses and all kinds of things, gathering the information. But if you're not encouraged to involve yourself in experimenting, doing things differently. I remember just from my group yesterday, someone saying, I'm doing this exercise where I look in the mirror at myself and I talk to myself. And she is finding that doing that opened things up for her, that all the books that she had read and all the courses she'd done hadn't done. It takes experimenting and actually putting into practice. And that is what I'm going to encourage you to do. Okay, here's the first self-reflective piece. What is your history with anger? So I'm going to give you about a minute and a half where you're going to write. Writing is important because things come up in writing that thinking doesn't allow. This is a stress that writing can be informed by your heart. So, how was anger expressed? Did you have an explosive father like I did? What was your impression about anger? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it dangerous? Think about your experiences when someone's angry at you or you're angry. Now you're not expected to do all three of this. Just pick one. And for a minute now, journal about it. And I'll be back in a minute. Thank you. All right, we're back here. Remember that you can always return to continue. And again, I encourage you to write. What is anger? I am going to spend a bit of time teaching about that, but I want you, after you reflected, say yes in the chat. If you feel, not think, but feel that anger is bad. Did someone tell you? Did you get a sense? Is it your experience, anger, there was something bad? Say yes in the chat.
We have a number of yeses, and
Wonderful. Say yes in the chat. Is you dislike feeling angry? And one clue of whether
uh,
you dislike feeling angry is that you avoid it. You avoid it in your life. But in the small section here, I'm going to open the door for you to see where it might be. So
a number of yeses again, Anne.
good. The say yes in the chat if you stay away from people and situations that bring out conflict, angry people, arguments,
There's yeses.
fights. Thank you for participating in that way. So let's just reflect right now. When you think about your experiences with anger, whether it's outside of you, inside of you, anger has huge energy. Just remember, if you were being bullied or someone was saying mean things to you, or a parent was angry and exploding, you, young as you were, vulnerable as you were, you can feel the energy. It was huge. And then in the world, how is anger expressed in the wars that we have in the world? Someone saying, I'm right, I deserve this, and I will fight for it. And so wars are created, territories are fought over, people are being killed because there are people in power with the anger to launch that anger into very particular ways. Anger has huge energy outside in the world, but also in you. And we want to use that energy for your behalf. So that's one point. And the second point is when you're young, you're unprepared for this. You just do the best you can. And the best that you did then is probably how you're dealing with anger now, not having really looked at it and considered, can I do this differently? So, how do you respond to anger? Please do not disturb is where I was most of my life, where I didn't want to be bothered by anger. So I buried it. I suppressed, which is an unconscious psychological mechanism where it's gone before you even realize it. Or you repress it. You see it and you're going, don't want it, and you push it aside. Or you simply deny it. You see it, you walk away. Or you dismiss it as something you don't want to deal with. So say yes in the chat if you see yourself burying, denying, repressing, suppressing your anger.
Yeses are coming in.
Cool. Thank you. This is an important admission because we want to move you from that point. Can you let Allison in if she's legitimate, Doug?
Pardon?
Allison is waiting.
Oh, I don't see her.
Oh,
Uh,
so if I see her, I will admit
yeah,
her.
admit her. There's no one in the waiting room that I see.
Okay. Say yes in the chat if you experience currently, recently, the energy of anger growing in you that you want to explode.
Yeses are being
You know, and
stated.
this is a good thing. I see the yeses come in because that means that you are connected to your anger and there's a possibility of doing something with that.
And waiting room came up, but I don't see anybody there.
I just admitted her. Her name is Allison, so hopefully you'll see her come in. So finally, say yes in the chat if you act as if anger is an enemy. Say yes in the chat.
Yeses are coming in.
Beautiful. Thank you for seeing that. Now, this is the section, we finished the major section 1. This is the second one. I want to talk about seeing anger as a message, which I think you've been getting from what we've been talking about. Try to see that anger is a no from the heart. The no is saying, my needs are not being met. My needs for safety, love, and respect. This is a very important teaching for me to know, for you to consider that anger is no from the heart. So when you're angry, your heart is saying no. So if you turn away from that message, you're not listening to your heart. You're not getting the message that the person or situation you're in doesn't meet your needs. And your heart has needs to be safe, to be loved, to be respected. Remember this, anger is a no from your heart. Now I'm going to take a quick interlude by just this general proposition. As you can tell from the way I advertise and talked about this in messages to you, I'm definitely talking about a choice you constantly make between your head and your heart. I had, for most of my life, chosen my head over my heart. I live the life of the thinking mind or the intellect until 10 years ago, as you learned from my story. And that made me successful. I could do the stuff that made me a successful professional all through my head. And that is because when I was hurt as a young child, as all of you have been hurt way, way back when you can't remember, you were alone in feeling disconnected because no one saw you, understood you, you were rejected, betrayed, etc. You were alone, but you had connection with your intellect, your brain. It was there. And you began to rely that on the brain as a resource, trying to figure out what this chaos is, trying to figure out what the ways to get through it. The brain came up with beliefs and strategies to make sense of the world. So the head is was very useful, but we have not gravitated from the head to making room for the heart. And this presentation is all about you need to listen to your heart. You need to take the head off its pedestal and give room for your heart because your head, with its logic, analysis, taking things apart, doesn't ever have a whole perspective. Only your heart knows. So that's a little brief, um, what do you call it? Piece to consider. I am talking all the time about giving space to your heart. So, what happens? You react in anger, irritation, something. Whether you pause then or you pause later and revisit it, you listen to the anger. It's coming from your heart. What is this message? Are you feeling rejected? Are you feeling pushed out by someone's ego, arrogance? Are you feeling criticized? Are you feeling this person's situation is making you feel small? Whatever it is, listen to your heart's message. So, another self-reflective piece, giving you a minute to think of a time you felt anger today or this week. You might have been even irritated waiting for me to get this thing moving. What was the message? What was the no from your heart? What was your heart saying you needed instead of what you were having in that moment? So you have a minute to pick up your notepad and journal, and I will time you. Okay, thank you for genuinely getting into this the best you could. And remember, you can continue this later. Now, I want you to say yes in the chat if you were able to find a time you were angry and stay with it and learn what your heart needed instead. So say yes in the chat if you were able to get somewhere with this exercise in learning what your anger was about. We're getting a few yeses. That's wonderful. Thank
We're
you. Good for you.
6 yeses thus far.
Yes. And say yes in the chat if you got the message that your heart was giving you about what you needed instead. Yes, we're getting some wonderful. Good for you. And if you, those of you are responding, can you say a few words about what you needed instead of what you received? And then, Doug, if you get anything, you please read it to me. At least one?
Now I could share mine. I needed my brother to drive safely. He was driving, he was driving unsafe and he was cursing all the other drivers along the way.
So, what did your heart need instead of his driving the way he did?
My
What's the word?
heart needed him to
No, no. What's your, a simple one word, what did you need instead?
safety.
Yay! Yes, exactly. Safety. And you know, safety is huge, right? In terms of living in the world. You want to feel safe. So that's why you were getting distressed about your brother driving the way he was driving. Thank you. I appreciate that. And
There's
yeah, one more.
Paola needed respect.
Good. Wonderful.
Christy needed her sister to respond with appreciation instead of demands.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you.
Understanding from Anne.
Okay. We're going to pause here with that, and thank you very much for sharing and participating. Now, if that wasn't enough, when you work with me, you're encouraged to find all ways you are angry. And this is a lesson I had to go through because anger was not part of my scene. So I had to find my anger, and I am going to list 9 things, I think, about subtle signs of anger. So these are all the hints for those of you who deny, bury, suppress, etc., and even those who don't, that there are other signs that you are angry that are worth paying attention to because there are whispers from your heart. Same thing. A quiet no also needs to be heard. Okay, first is irritation, a small sharp edge inside you. For example, you snap at your partner for leaving dishes in the sink, even though it seems minor. 2, frustration, feeling blocked or stuck, wanting something to change, but it doesn't. For example, you keep telling your coworker the same thing, but they don't listen. You feel the tension in your shoulder, perhaps. Third, do you hear yourself saying, I'm disappointed? A letdown that masks unspoken anger. For example, a friend cancels plans at the last minute again. You feel hurt, but you say, it's fine. Resentment, unspoken anger that builds up over time. For example, you always do more chores than your roommate. You never say anything, but inside you feel heavy and bitter. Jealousy, a sign that you feel left out, unseen, and not valued. For example, your coworker gets praise for an idea you had. You feel tightness in your chest. 6, blame. Now, this is important. Blame is a way that anger tries to find a target. So you blame your partner for making you late when you did set your alarm or paid attention to the time. And more important, there is self-blame, where anger needs to find a target, doesn't find it outside, and it turns against you. 3 more, sarcasm, a hidden jab that carries anger's bite. So you might say, well, that was smart when someone makes a mistake. 8, withdrawal or cold silence. It's pushing anger down by shutting others out. So, for example, you stop talking to your friend after they hurt you, but never explain why. Or something you don't realize. 9, chronic complaining. Repeating the same story over and over instead of naming the anger underneath. For example, you always talk about how unfair your boss is, but you never set any boundaries. All right, this is from the exercise, so we can skip this. But going through the list that I just went through, can you see in the 9 examples that there is anger in irritation? You felt irritated. You felt disappointed, etc. Does this open up the possibilities of finding the messages from your heart? Say yes in the chat if this has been eye-opening for you. I would appreciate that. Good.
We're
People have,
starting to see yeses.
yes, good. Thank you. All right, section 3. This is the giant part of the presentation because this is where I reveals the keys that were helpful for me to get to a place where I have healed my heart a lot. And by healing my heart, I am connected to my heart. And as I said, now I don't listen to my head for any kind of direction. I am connected to my heart and its inner wisdom. I just remembered messaging one of my clients who was dealing with so much anger and so much trauma connected to the anger. And she was trying to deal with the practical situations in her life. And she says, I'm expected to do this, but I don't want to. So I emphasize to her, listen to your heart. Listen to the wisdom in your heart. Then make choices. And she thank you. She says, I will remember that. So this is a way that you can use anger as a way to connect to your heart. And you do this because your heart has guidance and wisdom. And we do this by going through these 3 mini sections, which I have 20 minutes to get through. Okay, let's go for it. All right. If you haven't gathered by now, I'm an inner child specialist. I've been working with inner children for 10 years. And I have learned what the signs and gifts of the inner child are. They're the triggers, anger being the loudest, fear and sadness are other two, Fear is pretty tricky. Sadness is subtle and complicated to me. And then there are beliefs, these impressions of the self in the time you were hurt, abandoned. The impressions are beliefs that you picked up, like, I am alone, because that's what it felt like. No one there to support you. Or the impression that I'm not good enough. If I were good enough, there would be somebody. If I were important and deserving, my mother would have been there, a parent would have been there, but they weren't there significantly or consistent enough. So I had too many moments of feeling alone by myself, feeling like I didn't matter. Those are the kinds of beliefs. And then the patterns that were created. These patterns write the scripts that run the adult life. So we want to learn about the patterns. Okay, you have choices. You can either pay attention to anger and other triggers, or you can allow the inner child's reactions, belief, and patterns script your adult life. You can choose between survival, and that's what all of the inner child's patterns and beliefs and reactions are about. The trauma parts are committed to your survival, and they did a good job because here you are today. But you're here because you want more, and that is because you want to choose to heal. And I'm going to show you what has worked for me. Um, I think we're not going to do this self-reflective piece because we need the time. So we need to realize, to summarize, that recognizing anger is just the beginning because there's fear and sadness that also need your loving attention. But what about healing? What about the inner child and its patterns and the subconscious? So I talked about these survival patterns. And these survival patterns help you to be where you are today, but they run your life. What are these patterns? I am going through a number of these. I think about 10 of them. Take note as I'm going through them and say, this is me. First, people pleaser. Always saying yes, avoiding conflict at all costs, seeking approval to feel safe. For example, you take on extra work, you agree to things you don't want to do, you silence your own needs. What happens? Your boundaries become blurry or they're gone, and resentment builds inside. And check it out, you're exhausted and you feel unseen. Second, the overachiever. You're trying to prove your worth through constant doing and success, yet it never feels enough. For example, you have a wall of certificates or awards, but inside, good enough still remains. What's the limitation? You sacrifice joy and rest for more doing, bringing burnout and emptiness. Third, the perfectionist. You believe that making mistakes means rejection or failure. So you try to control every detail. You're a control freak. You spend hours rewriting an email, for example, or replay a conversation in your head, ruminating, how could I have done better? The limitation, of course, is while you're caught up in these perfectionist activities, creativity dies, and you feel that nothing ever gets done. And the fear of criticism steals your peace. 4, the lone wolf, who does everything alone, doesn't trust anyone to help, feels safer relying only on self. For example, you never ask for help. Even when you're overwhelmed and there's so much to do, you never ask the person next to you, hey, could you give me a hand? This isolation is exhausting. Moreover, the collaboration and connection when you ask for help feels threatening, and that's exactly what you need. 5, the chameleon. You become whoever the others want you to be, so you lose touch with your authentic self. You change how you dress, speak, for example, or act, depending on who you're with. The limitation, deep down, you feel invisible. The real you is buried under masks. Number 6, the peacekeeper, avoiding all conflict to feel secure. You swallow your anger and the hard truth. For example, you say it's fine when it's not. So you feel resentful and powerless. Unspoken truth festers, boundaries dissolve, and the heart's no goes unheard. 7, the fixer feels responsible for everyone's problem and wants to make things right in order to feel valuable. So you jump in to rescue anyone when they don't even ask. The limitation, your own needs go unmet. And guess what? You keep attracting people who drain your energy, the fixer. Number 8, the escapist. You numb or avoid feelings through distractions because you can't sit with discomfort. So you scroll endlessly on your computer, on your phone, social media, or you overeat, or you binge TV. You just keep busy so you don't have to feel. The result? Old wounds stay hidden, but still run the show. Healing can't happen in avoidance. Finally, the critic. This is the critic, the inner voice criticizing. This is how anger turns inward in terms of self-blame and harsh judgment. So you shame yourself for mistakes. You replay regrets and you can't forgive yourself. So the limitation, there is no self-compassion and you stay trapped in guilt and smallness. 10, the stone wall. Shut down all your feelings to stay strong because you feel safe only when numb. For example, you say, I don't feel angry. And if you check out your body, it's tense and your energy is stuck. The limitation, life feels flat and heavy. Emotional energy can't move. So say yes in the chat first if you recognize that you run some of these problem patterns. And while you're at it, you might even put a number in the chat about the patterns that you have. You're saying yes? Are you putting the number in? As I went through them, I say, oh, yes, I used to do this. Oh, yes, I still do this.
There's a number of yeses in the chat.
Good.
Mike confesses to being a fixer. Angie says she's not sure of the numbers, but she
Okay.
knows that she's several of them. I see patterns of myself in every one of those.
Okay, I appreciate your participation in this way. So, moving on. The teaching is these patterns once protected you, but today they cost you energy, joy, creativity, and your connection to intuition and spirit, which is where I want to go next. When these parts lead, they block your essence, your natural state of wholeness, deep inner peace. So the walls you built for protection now keep you from your heart. And this is the remaining segment that going to try to condense in 10 minutes. So, to begin with, obviously, we're talking patterns created by the inner child. We're talking about wounds. There are many, many ways that people talk about healing the inner child. Because if you just Google inner child, you'll get YouTube videos, people with their websites and programs and meditation and journaling and on and on and on. There are so many resources to heal the inner child. And from being in this field for 10 years, I can tell you that many don't have what I am going to talk about, and that's important. And that is, do you see this iceberg? It shows a bit above, which is the conscious mind, and what is below is the subconscious mind. And in short, I'm going to talk about why you need the subconscious mind in order to heal the wounds of the inner child. Listen carefully to what I say right now. Everything in your world that you've experienced up to now comes from your subconscious mind. It is your subconscious mind that have all the scripts that we're talking about, has all the wounds that created all of that. And it is these things that create your reality as you know them. So if you look at your life and you see places you're uncomfortable, people in it that you wish weren't there, so forth, they're there because your subconscious mind created that for you. Why would that? Well, we won't go into that, but 5% of what is happening right now is because you, uh, that's what comes from your conscious mind. 5% of what you're aware of, what you hear, take in, and so forth. And 95% is from the subconscious. There are your habits. And so much of the subconscious drives all your heart, your lungs, all of that. And we need that. But we don't need is to have what keeps us stuck in the subconscious mind, unavailable to the adult to do something about. So I have a system that uses the subconscious to help heal. Are the words of someone who recently worked with me for just one session with my subconscious method. And just feel the spirit of what she's saying. Life-changing, a safe place where she could feel and take in everything from her without fear, many light bulb moments that shifted her. She went through so much trauma and loss. I was astounded knowing her, what her history was. So she found hidden parts of her and helped her to release that she carried so long. You saw all those patterns. You need to work with everything connected to with those patterns so that you can find freedom from people pleasing, from perfectionism. And when you partner with your subconscious mind, you can heal them in a very deep way. So this is the message that I want to deliver about your heart. The goal is not to harden our hearts, but to keep them open, undefended, and alive to love, even in the face of pain. And this is what I work with. Where there is pain, there is a call. And we need to meet that call so that you can soften your heart and open your heart. Saint Supri says, it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And Carl Jung, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. So those are all the endorsements about the work that I do, which is about healing your heart. So it is about standing in your truth without lashing out, where unrefined anger tends to do. It's saying no with love, and it's about forgiving those sooner rather than later, but eventually, not to excuse them, but to free your own heart from the resentment and anger and memories. And it's also about watching your ego's old tricks and using compassion instead. And I can run a whole masterclass on ego's tricks. What I like about this former student of mine is she talks about the inner child work that she did to help her inner child feel safe, to make her adult feel safe, so that she knows she can take up space and have boundaries. And this is what I love about what Jeannie says. Today, I feel more like the tall redwood tree I sit under, grounded, connected to the God of my heart, and free to let my soul speak. That's what it's about. It's getting in touch with your soul. It's getting in touch with the God of your heart so you can feel that connection, that stability, which can give you so much. This is a testimonial that I certainly don't have time to play, but I just met with this ACG this week, and she was talking about becoming free from her old self and becoming her true self, and being in a new relationship, not from her wounds, but a place where she's speaking her truth, exploring her career options, which has kept her safe and successful, and moving to something else and feeling the freedom to that. So say yes in the chat if you'd like to change as a result of this presentation and all that you know, how you handle your anger. Say yes in the chat.
There's some yeses.
Good. Say yes in the chat If you see how letting go of the inner child patterns, the ones that I describe, will free you, can you see the possibilities? Then letting go of being a fixer, letting go of being a peacemaker or a perfectionist, that will substantially reduce the drain of your energy, etc. Can you see the possibilities there?
There's a number of yeses again, Anne.
Good. Say yes in the chat if you'd like to know your wisdom and you'd like to live from the wisdom in your heart.
A number of yeses again, Anne.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, would you share in the chat what's in your heart right now? A call to move on with your healing, a longing in your heart to get more connected to your heart, um, curiosity of what it is that Anne does with the subconscious that is so powerful. Can you share anything about a commitment that you might make to yourself and say, there are things to do, and I'm going to follow through and make a commitment to dig deeper, pick up your courage, and say yes to yourself. Say yes in the chat or write in the chat what's in your heart, any commitments, or any insights you have gained. I would appreciate that. And Doug, anything that comes through, please.
Well, Sam says curiosity about what happens next. Takeaway is that listening to the heart is the most important part and not ignore it, not ignore those moments. It needs you to respond to the call.
Yay.
Allison says, use what I have learned. Uh, I said, can't remember what I said now. I don't know if I posted it. Allow myself to listen, pay attention, and encounter what is now unheard.
Yay, good. Thank you.
And
So,
lastly, uh, appreciative for this knowledge and insight. That came from Mike. Anne also was expressing her gratitude for the presentation.
oh, wonderful. Thank you. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your presence here. I would like to suggest to you that you meet up with me using this breakthrough clarity call. 45 minutes where we can talk about your situation. Even you feel like you've got all the tools that you need, but we can talk together about what issues you have and so forth, and plot out a possible roadmap for you of what more you can do. And of course, in this process, I will be clear about what I do that may be helpful for you. So that's the link that you need, which Doug is going to put in the chat. Can you do that, Doug?
Yeah, I'm doing it now, Anne.
Wonderful. So I am going to stop my screen share and see what shows up on the screen. Well, there are some of us here. And most of us have our video turned off. So I want to stop the recording because that's a formal presentation. and see if I can chat with a few people who are still here. So let me stop the recording. Uh, Stop the recording here. All right. So those of you who are not visible, if you put yourself, hit the tab, where can I reach the recording of this presentation? Natalie, in about an hour or two, I will create a YouTube video with the presentation. And I will be emailing everyone who registered on Eventbrite this recording. So if you came in late, I think I started recording after we had half an hour of technical difficulties. So the recording will actually be 60 minutes long. Um, but nonetheless, I think I put everything in there that I needed to. So no, thank you, Natalie. No one showing up so I can see you on the screen. Will you make yourself visible by hitting the video screen so I can see your faces? Well, maybe not. I'm seeing this recording button.
And do you want people to raise their hands so you could unmute them for them to share if or
I
ask questions?
Right, hang on a second. I'm trying to stop this recording.